What would you call Superman if he turned into a villain?
I don't know.
The Man of Steel? Welcome to the greatest DC comic show on YouTube. Thank you for finding your way to Fanboys Live and the Retro Review. Superman coverage on this channel starts right now. And it's going all this week into next week too. So welcome to a super kickoff to some Superman coverage. I'm Ryan Magic Lasso. I am with another regular fanboy. Silver Hair Bronze Age Babe is with us. How are you?
I am great, and I am so excited about the Superman movie that's going to, I guess, make its appearance on Friday. You know, I don't know about you, but I think the buzz and the excitement about this film really exceeds the Man of Steel Henry Cavill.
I agree with you.
Movie. You know what I mean?
I feel it. I feel the excitement on this.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job of making this a movie, not that you feel you have to see, but when you really want to go see.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward to it.
When do you get to go?
I'm going to go. See, I'm a weenie. So, you know, big crowds like opening day and opening weekend. No, thank you. So I'm dragging the missus probably the following Monday, like a lovely matinee. So we will make lunch out of popcorn and candy, and I'll make her sit there through Superman.
So like a week from tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tomorrow is the Hollywood premiere. That's the red carpet with the stars attending and everything. That's the one, and I don't know if anyone won Crypto's Golden Biscuit or not, but if they did, that's the event that they're attending is tomorrow night.
Okay.
And then on Tuesday, there is an early Amazon Prime showing for Amazon Prime members could buy tickets in select cities.
Okay.
I am going to the Thursday IMAX premiere fan event. So Thursday at 6 o'clock, I'm going to see it on IMAX.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm kind of psyched for that. And I believe it comes with a special comic book that's exclusive, or at least an exclusive cover to
I was going to say, you know, if you're attending something like that, there's got to be an exclusive somewhere within smelling distance. So
I certainly paid enough for the tickets. I
pricey,
couldn't believe.
Pricey, is it?
Oh my gosh. I'm like 2 tickets and I'm like, we're close to $50.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when you used to go to the movies? It was like matinee was like $2.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the
Miss those days.
So, not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be talking more about the Superman movie in our news section. First, let's say hello to some folks that are joining us. If you're watching on the Rewind, thank you so much for wanting to spend some time here on Fanboys Live in the Retro Review. It is appreciated. White Tiger, cool, calm, collected. Muabunga to you.
How is new fatherhood? I hope you're doing well. I keep thinking about you and your cub.
Yes. Are you sleeping? That's what I want to know. Now, why isn't he here? I didn't sign off on any late permission slips. Did you?
I didn't receive a request for vacation.
Then
I think this is a completely unexcused absence.
Well, I say we usually get into the retro review about 20 minutes into the show. Mm-hmm. So he's got about another 16 minutes to show up.
Yeah, good luck, Tony.
because you're first up. And we are talking until you get here. Super Russ 9000, how are you? I know that you have not been feeling well several days ago, but you're doing better, and I hope you still are. So
get better. Nothing like being sick in the middle of summer, right?
That sucks. Yeah. And Luxinda Sorrel.
Luxinda.
Yeah, how are you doing? Hope you've had a nice and happy 4th of July as well. Look at that. Make some more of those Swamp Thing tumblers, because all your tumblers are nice, but that Swamp Thing one, that really turned out.
You know who owns it, I think, is our friend Rob.
Oh, really? Well, I can understand why he would pick that up, because it did turn out really nice. Good. Russ is doing better.
Good.
So as we start to talk about what's going on in the news, there's actually a lot of things going on in the news, which is not surprising when DC is about to be completely newsworthy.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest story of all of them that tops everything, you might not think has a DC tie to it, but it definitely does. And that's the passing of Jim Shooter at the age of 73. And that happened, I think, on Monday. It happened on Monday. Jim Shooter got his start at DC Comics at the age of 13. He pitched and sold the story to them. Amazing. And they didn't know he was 13. He turned 14 by the time it got published. But they didn't know. And for him, it was something that he needed to do to support his family because they weren't doing well. He said, I read some interviews I've done a lot of reading on him in this past week. And his first royalty check that he got went to fix a broken down family car so his dad didn't have to walk to work. That's how much they needed the money.
Wow. I did not know that.
There's a lot of things. I mean, Jim Shooter heavily, of course, associated with Marvel because he was the head of Marvel, at the end of the 70s throughout the 80s into the early 90s. But when you look at his DC comic work, he has published works in Action Comics, Adventure Comics, Captain Action, Legion of Superheroes, Superboy, Superman, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, and World's Finest Comics. And I'm not just talking like one issue. I mean, he has many issues in each one of those titles. Yeah, he has runs. So he does have a DC Comics connection to it. Fans would say he was very approachable, a very likable person. He would share lots of stories. You would also see, and granted, back when he was in charge, when he was the man, he did a lot of fighting for creators to own their characters that they created. Oh. He was a champion behind that, about them getting insurance and medical coverage and fighting and advocating for that. That was something he did. On the flip side of that, there's some people that will say, if he didn't like you, you were in trouble. Like, if he didn't like you for whatever reason, you were in trouble, and he'd put you out of work. List. He would put you out of work. Now, granted, a person now certainly is a different person than they were 30 years prior to that. So I don't know about any of that. I never had the opportunity to meet him or interact with him. I was never even in the same room or the same building with him. Yeah. So I am very upset with myself that I never got around to getting an autograph or asking friends who would have gotten me an autograph to get one. I thought I had more time. Yeah. And I'm kind of, that's really bothered me this week because I didn't get a chance in any way, shape, or form to express the enjoyment that his work had brought to me. Yeah. Yeah. I think when it comes to DC Comics, sure, he's created some characters, most notably in the Legion of Superheroes.
I was just going to ask you, I thought my brain is like Teen Titans and or Legion of Superheroes.
Legion, yeah.
The Legion is when I would see his name in those old books.
Sure. We did a retro review with you not that long ago where we did a story that he wrote, Legion. It's the one where you said that, how can I say this delicately? You know which one I'm talking about? The one where the female had to absorb all the...
Right.
You know where I'm going with that?
It was like a metaphor for menstrual cramps.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for saying that and not having me say that. Hey,
that
Tony. Yeah, that was him. Hey, Tony, how you doing? How you doing? That's one of the ones he wrote.
My God. Well, now I got to, dig that one out now.
He also, when you were with us too, that's a great topic for a video for you, for your channel.
It really is. Yeah. I think that needs to be in the, the Women of Comics section of my shows. That's great.
When you were on a few weeks ago, when Super Russ was on and we did the Superman Flash races, he wrote one of those.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, his name was just everywhere. You know what I mean? Was. So to the point where it's like I couldn't tell you Jim Shooter other than he wrote then, the books were good then, he must be good. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
I think the biggest character he created for DC Comics is actually a Superman villain. Do you know which one?
It wasn't the cowboy one, right?
No,
I don't know.
He created Parasite.
No way! That's
He
one of my
is
favorite villains.
He's the creator of Parasite. So,
wow.
I mean, Parasite's a great villain. Sure, he's purple like Grimace, but he's still a great villain.
Well, and my copy of that original book, which is so trashed, I mean, Jackson Roy Kirk would just go nuts. I should show it someday because it doesn't have, it has the centerfold is missing, which means part of the story is impacted, which I didn't know when I bought it because the eBay seller didn't quite mention that. So it's always been on my list to get another bad yet complete copy of that story because I love Parasite.
And one more thing with Jim Shooter before we go on to some other news that I read. Like I said, I did a lot of reading about him this week. One thing that maybe I had forgotten or I didn't know, you know, there's always been talks through the years that DC and Marvel were going to merge at some point. Mm-hmm. But I read, and this is according to someone who got it firsthand from him at a convention, that it almost happened in the early 1980s.
Oh.
Surprisingly enough.
Huh.
That, I mean, it was to the point, they said, that Marvel had already started creating covers with DC Comics characters on them.
Wow.
Warner Brothers needed some extra capital at the time. Both sides were very eager to merge, and they were only a few signatures away from making it happen. But apparently at the 11th hour, according to Jim Shooter, a now defunct comic company whose name he couldn't recall filed a lawsuit on antitrust grounds, saying that if Marvel bought DC, they would be subject to antitrust laws. Yeah. Now, Marvel's lawyers claim that they could fight it and they could win it. And there were people that said, do it. You know, let's get these characters, whatever it takes, let's do it.
Yeah.
And lots of people were excited, but in the long run, DC was the one to pull out of it at the very last minute.
Yeah.
But this was all, like I said, remember, this was before Crisis on Infinite Earths or anything like that. So, so this is very early 80s. Imagine how comic books would have shifted had that happened.
Wow. So was Marvel buying DC or the other way around?
Marvel was buying DC.
Was buying DC.
Yeah.
Well, good on DC. I think that would have, I know, my gut reaction was like, ugh. Mm-hmm. For both companies. You know what I mean? It's like you don't want... I'm not sure I would have wanted Stan Lee to muck around with, you know, Superman.
Yeah, I completely understand that.
But, you know,
completely understand it. So moving on to some other stuff, because believe it or not, there's a lot more news to share. And Tony is going to hate that he missed this. But here is the Superpowers variant cover for the Batman Harley Quinn one-shot facsimile that's going to be coming. You know, they do these covers. I mean, don't you love how those look like they're just pictures of real figures?
Every time you show one of those things, I have to tell my brain, no, that's a comic book cover.
It is
not a toy package.
So I'm sure Tony's going to get this for his collection.
Yeah.
And so August 13th is the release date for this. This was just released. This image was just released earlier this week. So, did you ever see the Guardians of the Galaxy movie?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I saw both of them.
Okay. There's actually three.
There's three.
Yeah, but you know
I gave up after two. I gave up after two.
The third one's actually really good. It's a little sad, but it's good.
Okay.
The third is better than the second. So, anyway, I digress, but there's been a lot of talk, and Tony does a lot of talk of this on Fanboys. Pom Klementif, I believe is how you say her name. She plays Mantis. She's the one with the little tentacles.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That, you know, that her and James, because James Gunn likes to use a lot of the same actors and actresses that he's worked with in other projects in his current projects.
Okay.
And Tony's been saying for a while that, you know, keeps sounding like she's going to come into a James Gunn type something, you know?
Yeah, James Gunn joint.
It's now being reported that she will probably play Huntress.
Oh,
in a Huntress headlining TV show.
That would be even better.
That's what they're
I
saying.
like that
Now, they're
idea.
not saying the Helena Wayne version of Huntress. It's going to be the post-crisis version of which is Helena Bertinelli, which she's a mobster's daughter.
Oh,
that's how they did it.
I only know the
Wayne, Helena Wayne.
The Helena Wayne, but
yeah, I do too. That's the one I like.
If it's a girl in in a superhero TV show, I'm there.
Yes.
Can we please have more of that?
So that's the rumor that's being tied right now, and she is being tied to that rumor.
Okay.
So we'll see if that ends up playing out. But I'll tell you, I just got to throw this crumb out here. Sometime in the future, we need to feature Huntress in our retro review, because I think we've overlooked her a little bit.
I think you're right, and I do have that copy that that facsimile of her first appearance.
Yeah.
So I have that one.
yeah. We'll think about that for the future.
Yeah.
So
that sounds smart. I'd like to do that.
Yeah, I think that would be a bunch of fun too.
Mm-hmm.
James Gunn says there's one Batman character that he absolutely has to put in a project sometime. He said at the time of this interview that he had just gotten Matt Reeves' script for the Batman sequel, and he hadn't read it yet, but he said if this character is in the sequel, it's instant greenlit.
Oh.
What character do you think it is? And guess somebody that you wouldn't expect.
Thorn.
That's a great guess, but it isn't.
It's not true. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure. Batman had a girlfriend for 2 issues back in the 60s, but I can't remember her name.
Oh, it was a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
It was a 2-issue long-term relationship.
Right.
So. No, it's not a girlfriend. So he says, believe it or not, hold on to your desk. Batmite.
Ouch. Oh no!
That's what he said. No! He says Batmite. God. He says everyone knows I love Batmite. I have to do something with Batmite.
Well, make it cute and funny. You know what I mean? If it's not cute and funny, then
I mean, even Adam West didn't have Batmite.
Oh my God!
I know. Can you believe that?
Do people know like how ridiculous Batmite is? You know what I mean? It was just such a joke. Back before Neal Adams got his mitts on Batman and all that kind of stuff. It was just like silly. It was just silliness.
Yeah. Jedi Farce is here. We're expecting him. He has checked in on the chat. He says he's coming. His retro review is up in about 2 minutes. So
I'm ready to step in for him, by the way. Just FYI.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm ready to go. I can
We'll have to put a little something extra in your envelope this week.
Okay.
We'll have to take a little something out of his.
Get paid?
We'll have to take a little something out of his envelope and put it in your envelope.
In mine. No, I can step in.
Thank you. I'd still, believe it or not, actually still have a little bit more news.
Okay.
To talk about. So I told you it's like feast or famine when it comes to news.
Seriously.
Sometimes we sit here and we're like, nothing's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, David Corenswet. Corenswet. Okay. He says he's been doing obviously a lot of press for his movie that's coming out this week. And he said in between being cast and starting to film, he reached out to both Tyler Hoechlin and Henry Cavill for advice on how to play Superman, and they both gave him the same answer. They wouldn't answer it. And he said it's not that they were being mean, and it's not that they weren't being supportive. They both were. But they said, you need to make Superman your own version of Superman. Right. That's what will be the best Superman.
Yeah.
And he thought, in retrospect, that's such a Superman answer to say.
It is. It's because we're all Superman, and classy answers from 2 classy appearing gentlemen. You know what I mean? Which tells me that they've always done a good job of casting Superman in film or TV for the most. You know what I mean? In terms of who these people are when they go on talk shows.
Yeah.
And I think the same of Rachel Brosnahan. I think she's doing really well on the talk show circuit so far.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
which is a big deal. So,
with SDCC coming up at the end of this month, there is a Superman exclusive announced, a Superman #1 facsimile by Alex Ross. What do you think of that?
I think so highly of it that I purchased a couple things from the Alex Ross studio. So I got an email.
You were aware of it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I got an email. And so you can I had my eye on the Virgin cover, and I was thinking about, do I splurge and get it slabbed and signed?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I may just get a Virgin cover signed, but
okay.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I love it too. Hey, look who's here!
Man Cave!
How are you? Happy 4th of July weekend. Awesome seeing you here. You made my day.
We've both been the recipient of wonderful gifts from Man Cave.
Yes, absolutely.
So I love him.
I do too. Yeah, and Man Cave, if you ever want to come on as a guest on the
that would be really fun.
You have an open invitation.
Mm-hmm.
Open invitation. So just let me know.
And whether you want to or not, I'll show up on the show too.
Yes. So we'll even send you an envelope with a little something.
Right.
That will be Tony's job. Tony will will fill and distribute the envelopes. I don't hear him here to object.
I was just going to say, see what happens when you miss the meeting.
Exactly. I love it when we have the meeting during the show too.
Yeah.
Finally, a couple more things, and then we're actually going to be done with the news. So recently there was the Denver Fan Expo. There were a lot of the Arrowverse characters there. Grant Gustin was asked if he could be cast in a James Gunn DC universe type role, who would you want to play? Without hesitation. Ooh, look at this good news.
Yeah.
I like that.
Uh-huh.
Without hesitation, Grant Gustin said he wants to be Flash.
I would
still wants to be Flash.
I would love that. I thought the guy who played Flash in the movies, I liked him as the Flash. I thought it was a really interesting take, and I was kind of heartbroken that his mental state was such that movie acting was not going to work out for him. But I thought Grant Gustin, I really liked that show for, like most CW shows for the first 3 or 4 seasons. And then it just got so ridiculous and I couldn't keep watching.
Yeah.
But I loved him.
I did think it was interesting that, he made comments that, I want to play the Flash. When I stop and think, he wanted out of that TV show because he was so sick of playing the Flash.
Well, have you seen much of him lately?
Exactly. It's amazing how not having a paycheck all of a sudden starts changing things.
If you're going to make money going to conventions and stuff, you might as well just wear the boots, you know what I mean? And go on a movie and make some movie money doing it. So.
Personally, I think he's great.
Yeah.
And finally, at that same event, David Ramsey, who played John Diggle on Arrow, they would, throughout the entire appearances he would make in the Arrowverse TV series, they would keep flirting with the fact that he's going to become Green Lantern, and then he wouldn't. And then he was going to become Green Lantern again, and then no, he's not. He was asked, what was the deal with this? Why was it wishy-washy? And he gave an explanation that sounds very much like the truth to me. He said that the heads of DC Comics kept changing throughout all this time, and depending on who was in charge, it was a yes. And when it was a yes, that would get written into the script immediately. And then when it was a no, that was kind of written, the brakes were pumped on it. And then it became a yes again, and then it became a no. And the ultimate plan was supposed to be that it was supposed to be spun off into a Greg Berlanti show.
Oh.
And he says he doesn't know what happened in the talks between the two of them with that. But that was the explanation.
It's too bad. I loved his character. I thought I thought all the actors on the CW shows were all really good. And like I say, I loved all the CW shows for the first 3 seasons. And then they all just kind of get creatively stale. And everyone eventually ended up in a superhero outfit,
Yeah.
which I always found problematic because you need some people to ground the stories. You know, you need real humans and not just the meta humans to
Yeah, absolutely.
do all that. But
Yeah.
they didn't ask me.
They did. Meow.
Oh, hi, Jackson.
We've been talking about you.
Yeah.
We've been triggering you.
Oh, I've got an idea to show a comic book that you will loathe at some different time. I will bring it up in a future show.
I agree with Man Cave. For the most part, they were
Yeah.
good. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
You should.
You should. Oh.
Tonight's retro review was picked by you.
Yes, it was.
Tell us why you chose what you did.
So, Superman movie's coming out. So
Obviously
it had to be Superman related. So I wanted to look at the Kryptonite Nevermore story arc because it's kind of an important one. It gets reprinted a lot. There is a book. I saw it at the comic book store the other day. They have a trade paperback of this collected arc. And also individual stories kind of pop up in Superman anthologies and that kind of stuff. So now it takes place over, 7 or 8 issues. So we're only going to talk about the last 3 because the Sandman part of this thing comes to an end. And I'm going to preface this all by saying that what the story is about is a strange double of Superman that was created from desert sand by an experiment gone wrong with kryptonite. And so it drains Cal's superpowers as he follows Cal around to his various adventures throughout the books. So it's this eerie kind of beautiful creation of sand that takes shape and slowly gains Superman's strength and his powers and his costumes and his appearance. And he finally talks to Cal and tells him that he's made from Cal's soul, his heart and mind, and that he is Superman. But the sand guy says, I don't think either of us are going to survive. And so that's what gets us to issue 238 with this beautiful cover of, I think it's a Carmine Infantino cover.
Yeah.
And I'm going to zip through the story.
Okay. You can see the screen?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay.
There she goes.
Awesome.
So it's that beautiful sand dude cover. So like the other stories so far in this arc, Superman has to defeat some kind of criminal, but Sand Guy keeps showing up and draining more power. So this time the story is about modern day pirates, as often happens, who are, who are trying to infiltrate, and I'm zipped all the way to page 7, by the way, Ryan, who are trying to infiltrate a secret government operation to obtain magma from, the Earth's core to use as a power source. Now, Superman can't solve this problem himself because he's so drained of power. So he finds Sand Guy and basically says, I'm here to ask for a favor. I need your help. If you could work with me. And Sand Guy says, well, just save your breath. And Superman's like, you can't, don't you understand? The hood's on the rig. Let that machinery get out of control. The result could be catastrophic. And the Sand Guy says, that is no concern of mine. Understand me. Although I am woven from your mind, your heart, your very soul, I am my own creature. I am not human. The affairs of mankind mean nothing to me. Someone says no to Cal, which is unusual. Meanwhile, in the story, Jimmy and Lois figure out that the mastermind of this magma heist, who he is, and basically he wants $10 million, or he'll use the magma to basically blow the earth in half. And somehow the government agrees to pay him $10 million in gold. And Lois Lane is on hand for the transfer of those hostages that you see walking down the bridge, and the money. And she tries to save the day by grabbing the bad guy's gun. True Lois moment. But then she chickens out on shooting him, which he figures out. And so then, as it turns out, Superman is actually on the deck of the ship, disguised, and just basically beats up the guy, and solves the problem at hand, and ends the crisis there. So the story itself is kind of a place setter or a holding thing, really, for the next two stories. So. The story ends with Cal sitting there worrying to himself whether his strength will ever return. How can I tell her that I wasn't sure of myself? I was afraid even of my remaining powers would fail. I'm a pretty poor excuse for a Superman these days, and that must change. I'll regain my former might and soon or die trying. So the entire, all of this arc basically up to this point, basically follows that pattern. Superman has to solve something. Sand guy follows him, drains his powers. Superman's getting in a worse and worse mood as that goes on.
So I think one thing that we saw in this story was that this Superman, depowered somewhat, is more like the Golden Age Superman.
Yeah, he doesn't fly, but he runs fast and he leaps. So and it's kind of funny watching him skip like a stone on the ocean. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and he doesn't want people to know, that he doesn't have his powers. So hey, Glenn, hope you're doing well. Glad that you're here. And let's see what Jackson's saying. Yeah.
Oh, is that why the trade book is so thick? I picked it up and I was like, this can't possibly be, but that would make sense.
So what happened then, we're skipping two issues because one issue is just a total reprint.
Yeah. Oh,
it has nothing to do with this storyline or anything.
Right.
And then we go to issue 240, which is, at this time, Wonder Woman has, she's depowered. She's the mod era Diana Prince, and she has a blind mentor, I-Ching. He thinks that what's happening to Superman is magic based. So in that issue 240, he's contacting Superman to see what he can, if he can help out in some way with the magic base. So that kind of catches you up. And as soon as I can get 241 up on the screen, we will show you the retro review for that. So I'll take over with that. We have an awesome cover here, The Shape of Fear. And we got Superman and Sand Superman both kind of getting their behinds handed to them as they're dragged out by this villain.
That's a Neal Adams cover, by the way.
Absolutely. You can tell that is. That's so good. Anyone else could take that same concept but not execute the same result.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are with I-Ching and Superman, and we're wrapping up the previous issue that we're not sharing with you tonight, though, where the Superman Revenge Squad has kind of come after Superman. And I-Ching's checking in with Superman to see if that he's okay. He says, I'm going to be fine. And then he says, as a matter of fact, forget everything, including your attempts to restore my super abilities, because I'm finished being anybody's Superman. Drama.
Not doing it anymore.
Yes. And he's like, well, you want to remain an ordinary man? And he's like, yes, I've had my taste of glory of being normal, to win through determination, courage, to be no more than myself and no less. For years, I've been dreaming and working and living as a plain man without the responsibilities and the loneliness of Superman. And I-Ching says, hey, I understand what you're saying, but one does not choose responsibility. It's thrust upon them, which is a very good point to make. And he says to refuse it is to commit the worst act of cowardice. Look around and see a world burdened with misery and untold agonies, that maybe you are needed to fix. And he realizes he's right. Says, prepare your magic. So Superman lays down and I-Ching goes to try to get a burst of yogic energy from the brain centers to ensure that they do not wake up before their task is accomplished. So he doesn't want this revenge squad to see what's going on or interrupt what they're doing. So I-Ching is able to let Superman's spirit roam loose. And some call it a psyche or call it a soul or whatever it is, it's coming out of his body. So he sends this soul to seek the lost powers and bring them hither quickly. So the soul of Superman starts taking off, and it hovers above a band shell in Metropolis Park, where below there is, in the silent darkness, the Sand Superman. And the Superman soul is drawn towards it as if by an irresistible force. In the air, the two unearthly creatures face each other, and a silent, eerie struggle begins. And it's like a tug of war a little bit. They're are both going back and forth with spasms of agony, and then it drops to the grass and lies twitching. Clawed fingers reach out and seem to rip a hole in the very fabric of existence itself. While wrapped in an aura of power, Superman's spirit flies back to rejoin his body. And I-Ching, even though he's blind, can tell that Superman's core, his essence, is back, but he's wondering, is it successful? The merger takes place, and Superman comes out of it. He's like, did anything happen? And I-Ching's like, here, let's see. Test this with this steel bar. And he's like, well, I didn't have a problem doing that, but I kind of need to see, that's not a big test, really. I need to do something really big. And as he goes to leave, he rips the door off the hinge. He's like, okay. And he starts to up and away and streaks out into the eternal cold of space. And he says, I'm not having any difficulty navigating the void. I guess that test has passed. He's like, there's a meteoroid. This would be perfect for test 2. Let's see what my strength is. He punches that thing. He says it's as good of a punch as anything he's ever thrown. He says, let's see how fast I am. I'm moving at about 10 times the speed of light. That's as quick as the Flash. I'm okay in that department. Uses the telescopic vision. He sees that there is a purse snatcher. He's like, just what I need. I'll see if I can stop him. So he blurs into a motion and begins digging a furrow deep into the street. And he's like, there's going to be quite a surprise, because he digs a foundation. He borrows a concrete mixer, pours some cement, makes a prison. And the guy essentially runs into the prison that he builds around him in super speed. The rest of New York City isn't exactly that happy that this is happening in the middle of rush hour. And the cops are like, it's a wonderful stunt, Superman, but would you mind moving your fine work of architecture? And he's like, you're kind of inconveniencing people. He's like, okay. So he heads off to the Army artillery range and wants a favor, have your men shoot at me. And so he starts taking off, and they start hitting him, and he says, it feels like cool rain. And he seems to be pretty happy. The Army guys think that he's talking kind of nutty. And he says, well, I'll see you the next time you want to test an H-bomb or something. Just let me know. So now we advance a few days where Diana Prince, the mod-era Wonder Woman, is with her mentor I-Ching, and they're reading about Superman, how he's goofing, though. He fixed a leaky pipe. He wrecked an entire water system. It's the 5th mistake that he's made recently. And I-Ching's like, we might have a bigger problem. So he phones Clark Kent to set up a meeting with Superman on top of the Empire State Building. They meet in an hour, and Superman goes, to try to prevent a catastrophe, and ends up putting a car on top of the Empire State Building. They have no idea how they're going to get that down. I-Ching says, I need to speak with you. And so it's kind of another goof. It's like his perception of what he's doing on some stuff just isn't making some sense. And he says, I've been observing your deeds of late and fears for your health. And he's like, hey, nobody's healthier than me. And I-Ching's like, please, your combat with the anti-Superman gang, it occurred when you were an ordinary mortal. And during this unfortunate incident, you were struck a severe blow on the skull. In my opinion, your brain was injured. When your superpowers were restored, the injury was fixed and made permanent. You're suffering from brain damage. And he's like, that's the silliest thing. You're weak, just like everyone else. And don't talk to me anymore. I don't want to hear your stupidities. So I-Ching goes back to Diana. He's like, the situation is grave beyond imagining Diana. With his capabilities, he's unstoppable if he goes berserk, which is what I fear could happen. And she's like, don't blame yourself. And he's like, but I do. And it's my duty to fix this. Silence Diana. I perform mystic rituals. I do not even quite understand. For only a fool dares to engage the forces of dark magic, yet I must. There's no other way. And thus the teacher becomes the fool. So he mutters some words in a language long dead, and a pale globe of flame rises from the smoking ashes. It floats out through a solid wall. Diana and I-Ching follow down the streets of New York City, where it turns a corner, and some folks think they must be filming a commercial because they don't understand what's going on. I think they're in kind of like Central Park right now, and this thing has led them to the version of Sand Superman. And I-Ching instantly recognizes him. Remember, he's blind, but he knows that he's a creature from the realm of Quarm. And Diana's like, the realm of Quarm? He's like, yes, it's a state of alternate possibilities a place where neither men nor things exist, only uniform shapeless beings. And they ask for his story. Here's where you get a recap of kind of what happened in the entire saga of the Sand Superman, starting with Superman 233, where, it's this chain reaction that destroyed all the kryptonite on Earth momentarily opened a rift between this universe and the realm of Quarm, and an invisible mist escape passed over Superman's unconscious body and sunk into the desert sand. When Superman got up, was remains charged with Superman's mental and physical vibrations. That got up and formed the Sand Superman. It kind of became alive. But there was a psychic link between the two of them that was established, and every time the being from Quarm passed close to Superman, there was an exchange of powers. Even from a distance, individual powers were momentarily zapped, and the Man of Steel grew progressively weaker as the Quarm being grew mightier. And he essentially became a double for Superman. And Ching's magic removed his strength. And he confirms, yes, the strength, the flight, the invulnerability, most of the intelligence. I am reverting to nothingness. I am dying. And they say, still, should you come in contact with Superman, you would regain all you lost, and he in turn would lose all he did. We may hope. And Diana's like, do you have an idea? He's like, yeah, let's find a phone and put my plan into action. So off they go, and there's this mist that they don't notice, an invisible mist that's kind of has watched over this and appears to be following them. We are told now to pay closest attention, for events will come thick and fast. So Ching, Diana, and the pseudo-Superman are in the lavish penthouse atop of the Galaxy building where Clark Kent's boss, Morgan Edge, lives. And they realize that Morgan Edge isn't there, so they end up picking the locks, and they go in, and they go to the telephone to summon Clark Kent, and they want to ambush him, essentially, with this Sand Superman. At that very instant, the trio is being observed from behind a trick mirror. And that room is completely soundproof. There's no way that they'll know that I'm watching. Who is this mystery man? We'll find out in due time. Diana mentions that Clark sounded a touch nasty, but he's coming. Meanwhile, that Quarm mist has wafted into Chinatown, where this mammoth parade is going through. It hesitates and moves towards the statue of an Oriental war demon. In an instant, the invisible mist penetrates the statue, and it comes alive. So there's terror and chaos. Superman arrives at the Edge apartment, doesn't feel like using the doors or windows, busts through the wall. What do you want, Diana? My autograph? And she goes up to kiss him, and she says, oh, I've got to keep his attention for a few seconds. I hate cheapening a kiss, but I just had to give you this. And he's like, well, I can't blame you, because he knows he's a stud. And Superman all of a sudden feels the pull at the roots of his being. With the appearance of Sand Superman, realizes what's going on and escapes. And I-Ching asks, was there a reason why you didn't grab him? And Sand Superman says, yes, because the psychic link between the two of us would be doomed for either one of us to touch the other. It would be a huge explosion. So Sand Superman says, I'll pursue him, take further abilities from him. Diana says, Ching, you look worried. He says, I fear we have unleashed woeful forces upon the world, Diana, and I sense impending disaster. So the real Superman's being chased by the Sand Superman. He knows he wants to weaken him. He's like, I can outsmart it. And he's like, it expects me to fly out to the sea, but I'll circle back towards New York and elude the thing in some of the clouds. But all of a sudden he sees panic below and people running like their lives are in danger. Maybe I can help. So he goes down. He's like, this child's about to get trampled, and saves the child as the child declares the giant is coming. He's like, well, this tyke is scared out of his head. He's imagining monsters. I got to see what is scaring this crowd, though. He becomes dizzy, sick. He's swirling around, draining like never before. He can't stay conscious, and he falls to the ground unconscious. He's picked up by this creature, which is possessed by that spirit, and is being dragged down the street, which is kind of like what we saw on our cover. And that brings the end to this portion of the issue.
So the issue 242.
Let me say hi real quick before we start, and that will also give me a moment to pull up the story. Hi, John's Comics with Friends. John has traded his kids for friends.
For friends, yeah.
Yes.
How did I'm eager to hear how the kids reacted to your rebrand.
And then we have Candace.
Oh, Candace.
I think, Candace, you made a new friend.
You did.
With silver hair. Bronze Age. Baby.
I can't wait for book show, Candace. I got something to show you.
Oh, awesome. You'll want to stick around for that, Candace. Thank you for being here. We certainly do appreciate it, too. So I'm in the process of pulling up this story, and Silver hair, Bronze Age
You know,
babe.
this
Once
is
I
where
do.
where Tony earns his keep. I think
Yeah, it does in doing this.
So yeah, because
Yeah.
I could never do it. I don't know how you people, what sorcery you people use. So.
Why I don't particularly like doing it is because I like to keep up with the chat comments and put them on the screen, and I can't see them when I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So, although I will say I thought it made my review easier controlling the story, but whatever.
Yeah. So.
Okay, look at this cover.
Okay.
Take it away.
Okay, so this is another famous Neal Adams cover. So it's going to be a fitting cover to a fitting end of a fitting saga. So we start out right where we left off, where the Oriental war demon is basically tossing Superman around like a rag doll. He is just having his way with him in the street, and there are two hobo type fellas who join in because they've always wanted to beat up Superman. Why the heck not? Yeah. So they know a good opportunity when they see it. So they join in the fun, and then meanwhile, Jimmy Olsen, who didn't realize how much his boss hates him because he had been sent to New York for a story about the city's junkyards. I mean, really? Okay. He finds Superman in the junkyard, and he takes him to a hospital where they operate on Cal's brain because, as I-Ching mentioned, oh yeah, you have a brain injury, so let's operate. Meanwhile, the two hobos are having a ball with the war demon, and they decide to destroy an art museum just for the fun of it, as one does when one is in New York. Suddenly, though, guess who shows up? It's Sand Superman. And he starts fighting the demon, which is welcome news. But the demon is stronger, and so Sand Superman leaves, wondering why he even bothered in the first place. Because, hey, this world means nothing to me. Why am I bothering? While the doctors are operating on Cal's brain, I-Ching then explains it all to Diana and Jimmy and us. And he basically says that Cthulhu, the Book of Cthulhu, speaks of an alternate dimension, basically the Quorum, and that the Quorum is inhabited by creatures without form. When these formless ones choose to cross our plane of existence, they often assume the shape of that which they first encounter. Hence Superman, hence although it makes no sense why they would take over the war demon, but nevertheless, they also drain any extraordinary powers from those they meet. So Diana's like, she finally gets, so Superman's doubles from Quorum. But how about that giant that tore up the museum? It's like, well, maybe that's a different story. I don't know. But the doctor comes in and says, hey, good luck. Guess what? The operation's complete. He will recover completely. And isn't that great? Meanwhile, the demon and the hobos are continuing to destroy Manhattan. And that goes on for several pages, and I'm not going to bore you with what they say to one another, other than they're just beating the crap out of Manhattan. We get to page, what is this? Page 11. And thanks to writer Denny O'Neil, we had gotten a bunch of time-wasting pages with the fight. But then we get an Ecclesiastes shout out there, neither shall wickedness deliver those that are given to it. It's like, okay, whatever. Whilst the demon decides then to kill the hobos, which is a welcome relief, I have to say. So Superman's in the hospital, still not really awake, when guess who shows up but the war demon. So the demon crashes into the hospital, swats Jimmy and Diana away like flies, and goes after Superman, who finally wakes up and starts to fight back. Sand Superman shows up at the same time and joins the fight and teams up with Cal, and they drive the demon back to Central Park. where that rift between Earth and Quorum had opened up. The demon spirit is sucked back into Quorum, and Cal plugs up the rift with a boulder that's conveniently located nearby. And we think, hey, the story's ended. It is all so peachy. But then Cal asks Sand Guy what it is he wants. And Sand Guy says he wants to live. I want to continue existing. I want to help people as you have done. I want to be Superman. So you must die. It's like, oh, God. Cal asks, well, why can't we be two separate but equal Superman? And Sand Guy then drops a truth bomb on Cal and says, could you bear living with an exact duplicate? Because that's what I'm becoming. You like your uniqueness. You need being the only one of your kind, a feeling that I share, which is kind of saying a lot, actually. And I don't know if it's the first time that that's happened to Superman. Someone has pointed out his ego to him. So they realize that they really can't duke it out, because if they touch each other, a fatal explosion will occur. So I-Ching appears, waves his hands to magically cancel out the "but will blow up" problem. And then we're treated to several pages of the two of them going at each other and diving deep into the ocean and down through the Earth's core. They're fighting it out and wreaking havoc. But what happens is that because they're doing all that fighting, up on the Earth's surface, devastation is happening. And earthquakes, unleashed heat surges into the oceans and rivers, waters boil. I mean, it's a disaster. So the two Superman, when they finally come up to the surface, they realize that their battle has actually created so many natural disasters that life on Earth has ceased. Well, it turns out that I-Ching had put them in a trance to see what could happen if they continued on. And Sand Guy decides that he has no right to Superman's body and soul. So he decides to head back to Quorum. And I-Ching tells Cal, I can transfer Sand Guy's powers back to you. But Cal refuses, saying that he's actually powerful enough. No, I've seen the dangers of having too much power. I am human. I can make mistakes. I don't want or need anything more. Sand Guy disappears, and I-Ching says to Superman, the gateway's closing. He is sealing it from the other end. And Superman says, well, now I-Ching, please go. I'd like to be alone, because Superman now has to think super thoughts. And so we end on this lovely little scene of he waits in the gathering darkness alone, and none can know his thoughts. Well, we would if you'd tell us, but you're not going to. So there it is. So that ends the Sand Guy saga from the Bronze Age. So,
we'll talk more about that in a moment. First, catching up with the chat. Many parents want to trade their kids when they become teens. Okay, that's an explanation. Glenn might be interested in that. And that cover reminds me of Superman versus Shazam.
Yes, yeah. You're right.
Yeah, I can see that a little bit too. So your thoughts about the portion of the story that we read tonight?
You know, I've always been a fan of this story arc. I think it's important, as evidenced by the fact that it gets reprinted a lot. And I think it touches, what I like about it is that it touches on Cal's super dickery. Yes. A subject that we have talked about a lot on this show. When you read a lot of Superman from the Silver and the Bronze Age, he really does come across occasionally as a real pompous ass. And I really like the way in your story in particular, writer Denny O'Neal took that to the extreme. And so that even because when he's a super dick in some of these stories, we're the reader's the only one who notices it.
Yes.
But in your story, actually, the characters notice that he's, being an egomaniac.
And that's pretty bad when the characters notice.
When Lois Lane actually noticed something, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, his ego and his pride was discussed in a way that it hadn't been before. and I think in a really realistic way. I think the covers are great. And I really think the sand guy art is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking at these stories, as you were popping them up on the screen, it's like, I would love for a future film it doesn't have to be this version of Sand Guy, but there's something there that is so visual.
I'm surprised that they didn't pull that back and bring that character back again.
Yeah.
For as much, you think about how long they did, almost a year long devoted to this Sand Superman.
Right.
And then he kind of just disappeared, to my knowledge.
Yeah, it started in January of 1971, and the last issue is September.
Yeah.
So, almost a year.
Mm-hmm. That's a long time, especially back then.
Yeah.
To devote to kind of a story arc. Mm-hmm. They didn't do that. So.
Yeah. So it's a, 8 of 10 for me. I think, having to have a separate adventure every issue. Mm-hmm. And then somehow some of the books do a better job of incorporating Sand Guy as the better than others. But I think it's a strong arc from back then.
I know that you showed this right when we were getting ready to do this, but this is not my book show. But when you showed this, I saw someone say something about this the other day that I'd love to get your opinion on.
Okay. Is
this a bondage cover or not?
It's the bondage cover that women wish they always had. It's like,
yeah.
I think so. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think it is too. I never really consider it I don't look at it and go bondage cover, but it kind of is. It is.
Yeah.
So I just, Tony, what do you think about this? Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tony's not here.
Yeah.
Sorry. The fact that New Superman 50 turned to see when he died.
That's interesting.
Oh.
That's interesting.
See, I don't know nothing about the New 52 Superman, so now
New 52 I actually thought was overall pretty decent.
Now you're sending me down another rabbit hole, and I'm fine with it, so okay.
So a few thoughts that I had. I liked that in Tony's story, which... I
read.
Yes, which Tony did not read. Didn't give us any advance warning until a couple hours ago. Now that's some super dickery right here for me. I like that they kind of took Superman back a little bit to the Golden Age with his powers and abilities. I thought that was kind of fun to take a look at again and to revisit, because you get so used to how he had evolved that you forget that he didn't always fly at the beginning, and he couldn't always do some of the things that you're just used to him doing.
Mm-hmm.
In the final story, the final part, I couldn't help but thinking when I saw this, there's this panel, and I'm going to share it. So you see the nurse talking to the doctor, and she says, "I've been trying to loosen his costume, but it won't come off." At this point, I was waiting for Lois Lane to go, "Amen, sister."
I know. It's like,
I was waiting for that.
Oh, the whole hospital thing, and let's have brain surgery on Superman, and we'll leave him in this costume because we can't get it off of him. It's just so stupid, Bronze Age comics. Oh, God. How can you not love them?
And I also thought in your story, there almost seemed to be where there could have been a cliffhanger ending, and they could have tied the rest into another issue, but it's where Sand Superman says, "I want to live, so you must die." That almost felt to me like an ending of an issue. You know?
You wonder if the editors are like, let's just, maybe we have to wrap this up.
We're at the end of it. We know we're done. Let's just get it done.
We don't have to, shoehorn another adventure in and then do this kind of stuff. But
yeah. So fun reads tonight. A lot of these issues, especially the ones with I-Ching and Diana, I have great memories of buying. Just 2019 in Chicago. I did a Chicago trip, and between Chicago Comics and Graham Cracker Comics, I found like those 3 issues with Diana and I-Ching in them.
Yeah, so, I was going to ask you if that had long been in your collection, because
not that long.
Yeah.
So
I had forgotten until I was rereading it. It's because, oh my God, Ryan has to read this.
Because Diana's not on the cover on any of them, or you really don't know that she's there. So yeah, so it was a fun revisit, and I really enjoyed it. So I thank you for
thank you for saying yes to this one. Because,
of course,
it's one of my favorite eras of the DC books. Only 25 cents, bigger and better, and you got an original story, and you got a couple of reprints in it too, plus all the ads and the letters to the editor. This is a value. This was a value back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely, it was. So cool. We're moving on to our book show and talking about our channels. I'll let you know that there's a link for Silver Hair Bronze Age Babe's YouTube channel in the link for this video. And Tony and Tim, the comic collector, and I got to do a Superman stream with Tim a few weeks ago, and I had so much fun. It's been so long since I had collaborated with Tim. So.
I caught some of that, and just to see him back in his little closet full of comic books again was just very heartwarming.
It seems like he keeps getting boxed in more.
Yes.
And more. Every time you see him, he's like...
And yet I remember him a few years ago saying, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of them. And it was, trying to trim the herd, and it didn't happen.
I'll tell you something funny. At one point, Tim popped out, and he came back in, but when he first popped out, he was frozen, but his frozen remained... backstage only where I could see it.
Oh.
And the entire time his frozen look had like the most I'm fascinated on what you're saying.
Whatever you're saying.
And it stayed there for the entire rest of the stream.
Oh, that's so funny.
It was so funny. I was trying to put them both on the screen at the same time, but it wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
So, because two Tims are better than one.
Two Tims are.
Yeah. But Silver Hair Bronze Age Babe, your channel, what's going on with it? And then we can go into a book show.
Sure. So my channel, I'm going to do book show first because it all leads in.
Sounds good.
First of all, I'm continuing to add to my Neal Adams signed.
Oh, nice.
27 covers collection. He did these in 2016. They're homages to his famous covers from the 60s and the 70s, but he messes around with the characters on them.
Yeah.
So I've been hunting down signed copies of these books. Of the 27 covers, I think I've only got 4 or 5 left. So it's a progress. Yeah. Lois Lane. This feeds into what's coming up on my channel as I'm finishing up my Lois Lane on the cover collection retrospective. There's going to be a video that's going to drop midnight where I kind of go through Lois Lane and the rest of my collection, because in honor of the Superman movie and Rachel Brosnahan, who's going to take over the role, and I just can't wait to see her. Related to that, I finally got a copy of Lois Lane Zombie.
Oh, nice.
Right? Dawn of DC, Superman #3. I mean, I didn't know this existed, and I happened to be rooting around on the eBay and saw this. I'm like, well, I have to have that. And Lois Lane's final, I think, appearance as a Superwoman character on the current Superman run. This is a variant cover from that. And it's not one of the better ones, but hey, it's Lois Lane. She's on the cover, so I'm there. And finally, why I'm so glad that Candace Barbosa is here, because last week she was on your show, and I was watching this, and she pulled out for her book show a Looney Tunes DC kind of book. And I was like, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. So I went on the line, and I found a bunch of variant covers from 2016 where DC teamed up with the folks at Warner Brothers Studios to come up with some variant covers. And there is a video on my channel now where I talk about those. Well, what I didn't have, and what I didn't realize I didn't have, and what I needed was this book that came in the mail yesterday.
Ooh,
which is this Catwoman and Tweety.
Nice.
Come on, look at her. Like, I think she's going to try and eat that.
Uh-huh.
And he's like,
I think I saw a putty tat.
I think I saw a putty tat. So, Candace, I cannot thank you enough for these. These, they tickle my funny bone, and I absolutely adore them. I've got the Wonder Woman one that's framed down in my comic book room now, and they are delightful. So there you go. So
Candace is happy that you got those.
You're my new best friend, Candace. I swear to God, this is great.
And that Tweety cover is pretty darn good.
It is just, it's amazing.
And now Candace is saying, I need that.
Yeah, everybody needs it.
And we got the warm fuzzies going on.
Yeah.
Special thanks and hello to Christina Payne, great moderator across everyone's channel. And thank you for mentioning that too. Do appreciate that. So I'll talk about
what you got going.
Okay, I'll talk about my channel first, and then I'll do some book show stuff. So I'll start with what's already on my channel. Back issue of the week YouTube short. I wanted something for 4th of July, and I wanted to cover a patriotic cover. I found a Marvel Age cover, which wasn't exactly a comic book, although it looked like one. It was more like an authorized fanzine, and it has a great G.I. Joe cover with the characters running in front of a flag. So that's what I used for the back issue of the week. And then I did a comic book editions video this past week called The Upgrades. All the comic books that I showed in that I already owned. I just bought a nicer copy of what mine is.
Okay.
So, periodically I was always like, oh, and this is an upgrade for my collection. And then I'd show something that was new. This time I just did a whole video that were just upgrades.
Great.
So that was kind of fun. Here's where we'll talk about where things, starting with this stream, have become very Superman focused. Obviously, we have the Superman stream right now. Tomorrow, there will be a back issue of the week short with a team up between Superman and Supergirl, since Supergirl is rumored to be in Superman Legacy.
Right.
I thought having the two Kryptonian cousins together would be kind of fun to look at. So that's tomorrow for the back issue of the week. On Tuesday, my comic book editions video will be an all Superman haul part 1. So since I say part 1, that means the week after will be part 2. Yeah, there's more coming. And then on Instagram, starting tomorrow morning, I'm doing 7 Superman covers. So
wow.
1 cover a day for 7 days. That will take us till next Sunday when we'll do another Superman themed retro review. So that's the Superman coverage that you're finding on my social media. So that's what you can see already and what you can expect to see coming up in the next week. Christina, thank you so much for dropping the link too. And there is a clickable link in the description. So do appreciate that. So when it comes time for a book show, I thought, okay, this is where we'll start. Issue 240 was the one we didn't review tonight. It took place between the first and the second one that we reviewed, but this was the cover of 240. I thought the cover was worthy of being shown.
Great.
Yeah, so that is just an awesome cover. Superman fails, and he ain't too happy about it. So
another Neal Adams cover, FYI. So there we go.
Yes. And then, do you know when they did the DC Comics Who's Who, Sans Superman never even got an entry? Isn't that sad?
No way. That's awful.
I think it's horrible. But it was fixed in Zoom's Who's. You see the little Sans Superman up there? This is completely unauthorized. It's not endorsed by DC. It's fan-made. But Sans Superman gets an entry, and you see him up there. There he is.
That is remarkable. See, now that's how the fans know who's important.
Yes.
The company doesn't.
Yes. And there were characters, even a bigger character, literally, like Giganta didn't get an entry. So Sugar and Spice didn't get an entry. So these were all people that were omitted. A Batgirl, not the Batgirl, but a Batgirl. So,
and that's that book that's like impossible to find, right?
You can find it free download, but a physical copy, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you contact information if you want to reach out. I don't know it off the top of my head, but yeah. I don't know. So, that's for Sans Superman. And then jumping back to what we were talking about earlier with Jim Shooter, I chose this digest that was given to me by Steve's DC Superstars, which includes a reprint of Parasite's first appearance and origin, created and written by Jim Shooter.
Okay.
So, yes, I know a guy.
I know a guy. I got a guy. Yeah. I got a guy.
The guy that Christina wants me to know is Dean Cain, but I don't know him. So she's a big Dean Cain fan. But I thought that would be fun for a book show portion tonight.
Well done. Well done.
Thank
you
you.
covered all the bases.
If you have something you would like to share with us, your own at-home version of a book show, you can share a cover with us on Instagram. Just use the hashtag FanboysLive and the Retro Review. Because we like looking at what's in your collection that's DC Comics related. So that's pretty cool. Of course, don't also forget
Fool's Fury.
Yeah.
And let's all send best wishes to Tony, who apparently is still stuck in traffic.
What are we gonna? There's gonna have to be some type of punishment enabled. What are we gonna? What should we do to him?
Make him read all 3 stories. One
Ooh.
retro review.
Ooh, he would hate that.
I know.
That is kind of punishment.
That's a little too evil. That's a little too evil. I know. I'm going to say that I am so looking forward to see Tony's new comic book room.
Yeah, even though it doesn't have red carpet.
I know it. We can get over that. But I like what he's shown so far, the back wall and the movable, the posters that can be interchanged. So having put together a comic room myself, I know how fun it is. So
nice.
I can't wait to see.
Tony,
we miss you. We're looking forward to seeing you again.
We do miss you, for real. He did an impulsive live stream like on Thursday, I think it was. Thursday night, I think it was. And that was kind of fun. So I have my notifications on. I just wasn't in front of anything where I'd be notified. So I didn't catch it all live. I watched most of it on the rewind. But I forgot to ask you as well, when it comes time for this Superman movie, there's all these amazing popcorn buckets. Are you getting one?
The one with the shorts seems kind of funny. Is it? There's one where it's like his butt.
I think that is not real. So I think that was a human.
That's an AI one.
Well, yeah. I don't think that one's real, but that was funny.
Well,
talk about the popcorn trick.
If my movie theater has it, I will probably shell out bucks for something, because the comic book room needs something like that.
That would be cool. And you could also keep like little candies and stuff in there too, like little minis or whatever too. So yeah.
Put in the guest bathroom with little bars of soap.
I think that's great. There's a lot of them. The one that I like the most is by a theater chain that they don't even have in the Midwest. So I'm kind of,
how are you going to get it?
Yeah. And if you turn to Evil Bay, you have to pay more and then the shipping. But the one I like the one that, oh boy.
See what he wants. Now that's an idea.
Oh boy. I mean, those pieces of the diorama have to go somewhere.
That's right.
The one that I'm talking about, though, that I like, that just the theater doesn't have a chain in the Midwest. It's the one that it looks like a popcorn machine, and Superman's blasting his heat vision to look like he's heating up the kernels. Because the glass is shattered, and it looks like he's heating up the kernels, which pop the popcorn that fell inside the open doors. That's the one I like.
That's clever.
Yeah, but that's not anywhere in the Midwest.
Yeah,
so
of course not. The one I want is never where I am.
Yes.
So, no, I am looking forward to it. I am so looking forward to seeing what people think about the movie, and getting online and talking about it. It doesn't look like they've screwed anything up.
So will you avoid the spoilers, and once people can start seeing the movie, which will be Tuesday?
I'll run across them. I won't seek them out, but I'm not going to get pissed if something.
If you see something.
Yeah,
so,
because
really, these days people don't care, and they'll put the spoiler in the headline, which I don't think is real fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand, a month into the movie, you could do that, because that's kind of fair game by that time.
Well, particularly comic book movies, and having been a comic book fan for more than 50 years, nothing's really forever. You know what I mean? So if somebody's going to die, it doesn't mean they're dead. If, somebody turns evil, it doesn't mean that's the way, you know what I mean? So it's like, you can't not entertain me. even if I know the ending. So yeah, I can't wait to see it though.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. I hope the wifey hotspot enjoys it too.
Yeah,
or at least tolerates it.
The Wi-Fi hotspot actually wants to go see this.
Okay, that's good.
So yeah, I don't have to drag her by the
Maybe
hair.
you can talk the Wi-Fi hotspot into getting their own popcorn bucket that's different than the one you're getting. So
now we're talking. I
mean, this is my popcorn. You have to get your own. You have to get your own.
Well, do you know she eats so much popcorn? She really.
Well, then we might need 2 buckets.
Okay.
It's done.
I was just going to say, Jackson, now we've got a lot more comic book covers to rip up.
That's right.
So
you've been watching the greatest DC comic show on YouTube, Fanboys Live in the Retro Review. Thank you to the live chat. And if you watched on the rewind, thank you as well. Have a super week. Enjoy the movie. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Everybody.